Today we're looking at the most popular states where people relocate to for retirement. Last week we created the best video ever uploaded to YouTube. Okay, it wasn't the best, but I liked it. Anyway, that video was about which states retirees left the most when they stopped working for the man. And today we're looking at where over 80% of retirees are moving to. That's right, over 80% of retirees that relocate move to one of these 10 states. Retirees change states for a bunch of reasons. Change of scenery, more affordable cost of living, the opportunity to be closer to loved ones. Millions of Americans retire every single year. Most stay in their home state. This video is about the ones that don't. The stats for this video are based on the US Census Community Survey. If you're one of those people that has decided to move to a new state and need a real estate agent, there's a link for Home and Money below. They can help you find an agent just about any place in the country. Got it? Get it? Good. Let's take a look. Number 10, Louisiana. You know, Louisiana has a bunch of problems. Being expensive ain't one of them. If you're a retiree and you want some warm summers and the winters aren't horribly cold, this is a good option. It's also kind of like for those people that wanted to move to Florida and maybe Florida's a little too expensive, they have similar weather. They also both get hurricanes, and that can be pretty freaking scary. But if you want decent weather and you like to fish, Louisiana's a good option. My suggestion, if you are one of these people, move to one of the rural communities. Baton Rouge, Shreveport, and New Orleans, you know, they got some pretty high crime. I mean, they're beautiful cities, they just got some crime. 3.5% of state-switching retirees find themselves in Louisiana. Number 9, Maine. Maine is a great place for retirees that don't mind bone-chilling cold in the winter. The summers and springs are amazing in Maine. It's beautiful, things to do. If you want to get outdoors, it's there for you. If you want to garden, if you want to fish, if you want to hike, if you want to camp, if you want to hunt things, Maine is your place. It's also really great if you like wine and craft beer. And of course, being a New England state, you know it's got great seafood. I've brought this up before. Food doesn't really make someone move. I had a long conversation with a guy after a video. He reached out to me and said he actually moved because of food. I was like, really? And he's all, yeah, barbecue. He found a place, he was looking to retire, and he wanted a place that was cheap and had great barbecue places because that's his thing. And he moved there. He now lives just outside of Kansas City, Missouri. But if you like all those things, including great seafood, Maine is a great option. It is a little more expensive than some of the other ones on this list, but if you could swing it, it's not a bad place to retire. 5.1% of state-switching retirees find themselves in Maine. Number 8, the Walnut State, Georgia. We got a lot of southern states in this list, so be ready and stop typing. It's not the Walnut State, it's actually the Peach State. How many of you left that comment? Be honest, put it down there in the comment section. How many of you actually paused the video to give me some grief over calling it the Walnut State? But Georgia, like Louisiana, is a great place to retire if maybe Florida is a little too expensive for you. Florida does have some very affordable places, but overall it's a little more expensive than Georgia and Louisiana. And you kind of get the same weather and the same kind of lifestyle in Georgia that you'd get in most of Florida. You still got great coastal towns like Savannah. In my opinion, I think Georgia's one of the better southern states. I like South Carolina too. 6.3% of state-switching retirees end up in Georgia. Number 7, Arkansas. Arkansas in the last couple of years has been showing up more and more on positive lists. And here they are again, number 7. A lot of people like Arkansas. A lot of people don't like Arkansas. While I was researching this, I saw a lot of complaints about the new governor. I don't know who it is. I guess she used to be a press secretary. All right, now she's the governor. Arkansas has some pretty scary places you don't want to live, but a majority of the state is decent. I mean, stay out of Little Rock, stay out of Pine Bluff and a few other places, and you're fine. The rest of the state is great, especially if you like the outdoors. I think Arkansas is often overlooked for being a great state for outdoor enthusiasts. Doesn't matter if it's hunting, fishing, camping, boating, whatever you want to do outdoors, Arkansas is one of the better states for it. I mean, places like New England, Colorado, even Oregon and Washington get more attention than Arkansas does. But Arkansas has some legit areas that are just beautiful. And people are moving there. Mostly they're moving to the northwest corner of the state. A lot of small towns in Arkansas are seeing a lot of retirees, especially up in the Ozark area. 6.5% of state-switching retirees find themselves in Arkansas. Number 6, Kansas. This is a state, if you want a nice, quiet, relaxing life with not a lot of excitement, Kansas is a good option. Kansas is also a state where a lot of people that are living the RV lifestyle, they choose that as their home base. Like they'll buy a house there and, 6 months of the year they travel around the country. It's centrally located, it's affordable, low crime in almost every corner of that state, and they're friendly. So if you do leave for 3, 4, 6 months, whatever, your neighbor, I'm sure, will check on your property for you. They're that type of people. But the affordability and centrally located is a big part of why people move to Kansas and retire there. 7% of state switch-in retirees find themselves in Kansas. Number 5, South Carolina. Surprise, surprise, another southern state. Now this one's kind of strange because the majority of the retirees that are moving to South Carolina are just going to the coastal towns. Bluffton, Charleston, and Myrtle Beach. Myrtle Beach isn't as nice as most people think it is. I mean, it's decent, but I've been there a few times. I wasn't impressed. You always hear about Myrtle Beach, but it was nothing really exciting. It seemed kind of run down as soon as you get like 2 blocks in from the ocean. But a lot of retirees are finding themselves in the coastal communities of South Carolina. One of them is Myrtle Beach. Columbia also sees a lot of retirees, and a lot of retirees find themselves there because they've left the military. If you don't know, when you're in the military and you retire, you have access to like the military hospitals and you can go on post, buy all your groceries and stuff like that, even though you're retired. So a lot of retirees will retire to an area around a major military post or just any military post. South Carolina has more than a few. 8.4% of state switch-in retirees end up in South Carolina. Number 4, North Carolina. Right next door, we got North Carolina. Being right next door, they obviously share a lot of the same positives that South Carolina has. They too have a lot of military bases. They're affordable and they got some nice coastal communities, so retirees like to flock to those areas. Retirees to North Carolina also find themselves out near Wilmington, which is a coastal city, Jacksonville, which, yes, North Carolina has a Jacksonville as well, and Rocky Mount. Raleigh, if they have medical conditions, honestly, the Raleigh-Durham metro area has some of the best hospitals in the country. Definitely a great place if you have some kind of medical issues. 10.3% of state switch-in retirees find themselves in North Carolina. Number 3, Pennsylvania. This one, I got to admit, really shocked me. Pennsylvania, even though it's not part of New England, shares a lot of the same things New England has. Same weather for the most part, same landscapes, same outdoor lifestyle, but it's more affordable. Far more affordable than just about anywhere in New England. And I think that's a big attraction for a lot of people, let's say that, are retiring from Massachusetts or something like that. You can go to Pennsylvania. You're not terribly far to get back to Massachusetts, see family, friends, whatever, but you're living a lot cheaper in a place that you're almost familiar with. As always, I'll tell you, I think one of the best small towns in the United States is Honesdale, Pennsylvania. That's a great place to retire. They got a giant hospital in the small town. The hospital's really for the whole county, but it's a big hospital and it's right there in this little small town. So if you're retiring and you need a hospital nearby, this is a great option. One thing I find strange about Pennsylvania, most people don't know that they are very much into their outdoor things, especially fishing and hunting. I don't think people really associate, if you're from the area, obviously you know all about it, but if you're on the West Coast or even in the South, you probably don't associate Pennsylvania with great fishing or anything like that, but they've got ponds, creeks, rivers, lakes everywhere in this state. And in most areas, it's affordable, especially for the surrounding states. It's definitely more affordable than Massachusetts, New York, New Jersey, and Maryland. On the west side of the state, though, you got West Virginia and Ohio, and those places are a lot cheaper than Pennsylvania. 10.7% of state switch-in retirees find themselves in Pennsylvania. Number 2, Florida. Yep, number 2 is Florida, and most of you are probably surprised it's not number 1. That is always the stereotypical place people move to when they retire. For many years, that was the number 1 retirement spot in the nation. 2 is not that bad, but they were always king of the hill. I just talked about Sarasota, Florida in a video about a week ago, and I'm surprised at the number of retirees that move to that area every single year. Florida has great coastal retirement areas, and if you go inland, it's pretty much the same stuff, minus the ocean, but a lot cheaper. Lakeland, Winter Haven, Brooksville, the Villages, which that place is just kind of weird, but very popular. 11.3% of state switching retirees find themselves in Florida. All right, before we get to number 1, don't forget we have another channel called On This Day. There's a link down below. We'd love it if you went over there and subscribe, watch some videos, all that good stuff. All right, on to number 1. And number 1, Tennessee. Surprise, surprise. Tennessee's drawn in more retirees than Florida. It's not really that much of a surprise, especially for someone like me who goes over all this stuff all the time. They've got a lot of different programs for retirees and senior citizens going on in Tennessee. It's actually considered one of the best states to live in if you are a senior citizen. Not saying all retirees are senior citizens, but you're pretty close. Tennessee's this weird state that I wouldn't say out of nowhere, but it's become popular with every demographic in recent years. And now the retirees are starting to clue in on what the millennials are doing. I knew a few people back in the mid-90s that were all, Tennessee's the greatest place to live. I'm heading back there as soon as I can. And what's funny is I honestly think every single one of the ones I knew, probably 5 or 6 of them, that went to Tennessee are still there as far as I know. Ones that moved to Nevada, Arizona, they eventually came back. And even some of the ones that came up here to Oregon went back to Southern California. But Tennessee, they all stayed. Tennessee is not a bad state. It has a lot going for it. Plenty of things to do outdoors. It's affordable, beautiful land. It's not Kentucky. Good healthcare. Nashville, not a bad place to live. 13.1% of state switching retirees find themselves in Tennessee. All right, that's today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you got some information out of it. Now go out, have a great day, be nice to each other.